Alright, so here it is, traders, the long awaited, much anticipated video where, and within this Sierra chart series where I talk about spreadsheets or Sierra chart spreadsheet. And basically how this is going to work, this is going to be at least a 3-part series to where in this video we're going to talk about the basic of Sierra chart spreadsheet. In the next video we're going to go into a little bit more detail with a strategy. And then with the third video is we're gonna do a deep dive and we're gonna create a full trading system using the Sierra chart spreadsheet. All right, so that's the plan for my spreadsheet series right now. As I continue, I'm always learning and trying to grow and learn as much as I can about Sierra chart. So as I learn more stuff, I will be adding to this spreadsheet series. There's a good chance I'll use this, in my live trading or my actual trading in the future. So let's go ahead and get right into it, and let's start talking about the basics of Sierra chart spreadsheet and all of that good stuff. All right, so if you're not familiar with it already, let's what is Sierra chart spreadsheet, right? So it's basically a system where we're using a Microsoft Excel spreadsheet in order to be able to create alerts or create studies or automate our trading, right? It operates off the same functionality as a Microsoft Excel spreadsheet or the equivalent spreadsheet. You can put in formulas and all that good stuff, all in order to be able to create alerts or to create a trading system or to create your own study. All right, like I said before, because I like to repeat myself. All right, so now the way that we're going to go through this is we're going to start out by talking about the language that Sierra chart uses for its automation, whether that's an alert or automated trading, and as well as the studies. So it's a very simple language, and to do that, what we're going to do is I'm going to open up a study. I'm going to go ahead and just go to my studies. I'm going to go to color bar based on alert condition. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to create an alert. Now, before we get, I'm going to go ahead and add that right there, and I'm just going to hit OK. Now, before we get into the language, we need to understand what we have on our charts, right? Because this is what we're going to use to create that alert from, okay? So let me pull up a notepad real quick. All right, bring this notepad over. So we want to go ahead and annotate, and this is the way I like to do things. I like to write everything down first, and this will help you a lot no matter what you're trying to do, whether that's creating your alerts or your trading system, or you're just trying to understand your strategy better. I would highly recommend that you write your strategy down, whether that's by pen and pad, or you can do it digitally like I'm doing right here. All right, so what do we have on our charts? Okay, so we got this blue line right here. Okay, and what this is the average line for the Keltner channel, based off the 20 period moving average. So I call it the K band. That's what I call it. That's just my personal name for it. But what it is the average of the Keltner channel, right? And I can show you this. I'm gonna show it to you in a minute, so it makes a little bit more sense, because we need to pull some information from our studies. All right, so the next thing we have, and we're just gonna abbreviate this and call it KA. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and set that up. Now the next thing we got is we have this red line right here, which is the 200 simple moving average. Okay, and we're going to abbreviate that as just 200, and all of this is going to make sense in a minute. Just bear with me. Now also, just while we're here, while we're looking at the chart, I want to point out another thing, because this is going to come into play, or this is going to be useful when we're working with the spreadsheet and we're building out our formulas. Now you see this green background I got right here? This is a study, and I got the study here just so I know when the market is live, or this is a time frame. This is my trading window pretty much, but a little extended, not exactly. But this is basically the New York Stock Exchange open market hours. Okay, I highlighted that green just so it sticks out to me and it's easier to see. All right, so if I go over here and I pull up the tool values, all right, we're just gonna pull that up. And once I hover over this, we're looking over here at these at the numbers. As I move my mouse around, those numbers change. But what we're gonna focus on, the point I want to bring up right now, is we want to focus on this number right here. Okay, so this study, this is a time range study, and you can see it over here where it says TR. That's abbreviated for time range, of course. Now, once I get off my pen tool, now watch as I drag this over into the time range that I have for the study. You see it changes to a 1. So what this means is anytime this study holds true, we're going to get a 1 that's showing that it's true. Literally, it means true. If it's not true, like if I'm not within that, the study is not actively, what I'm looking at, then it's a 0 for false, right? So just understand that there's other studies and indicators where it doesn't, give you a specific number. Like it's not based off the price. It's based off of whether it's being used or not, whether the condition is true or is false. So the reason that I even point all of this out is all of this information that's showing up right here in the tool value window, that's what's also going to be put in a spreadsheet. Okay, so I just wanted to point that out. Sorry, so now we understand what information is being put in the spreadsheet. All right, so when we get to the spreadsheet, then we'll be able to see it and we'll see how the spreadsheet lays it out. All right, so let's go ahead and write down what the conditions we want to be met to create our alert, right? So this is going to be very, very simple, very extremely simple, so simple that you probably shouldn't use it in your live, something that you actually do. All right, so what we're looking for is we want our KA, which is the Keltner channel average, to be above the 200 simple moving average. Okay, and when those conditions are met, we're going to use a green arrow that points up. Okay, so a green up arrow. All right, so this is just for illustration and demonstration purposes only. All right, so let's go ahead and start setting this up. I think we have all the information that we need to set this up, or to start setting this up. All right, so I'm gonna go back to my studies. Remember I said we want to look at the K-band or the Keltner channel average. So we need to get some information. Okay, now as you can see, all of these studies have this ID number next to it. So we want to take note of this ID number. So let's go ahead and grab that for KA, the Keltner average. This is going to be ID 11. Now we're going to leave the semicolon out right now. And we're just going to take that information right there. And then for the 200 SMA, we got ID 5. Okay. Now we're not done yet. We still need some more information. All right, so I went ahead and made some adjustments to my window so we can see everything. So we got my notepad over here on the left side of the screen. I got Sierra chart over here, so I don't have to keep switching back and forth. It's just gonna help with the workflow a little bit. All right, so we already got our ID number for the KA, which is the Keltner channel average. All right, and we got an ID number for the 200 SMA. Now I'm gonna click in here into the Keltner channel, and I'm gonna go to subgraphs. Okay, so now you can see what I'm talking about. This blue line being the Keltner average. All right, so the information that we want to get here is we want to get this SG number right here, which stands for subgraph, and then the number. So for the Keltner average, we have subgraph or SG1. So we're gonna go ahead and annotate that over here on our notepad, just so we know what we're looking at. And the way we're gonna do that is we're gonna put a dot or period, capital letters, SG1. So when we're writing out our formulas, we definitely want to make sure that we're using capital letters. We got to keep that in mind, that we want to make sure that we're always using capital letters when we're writing out our formula. Okay, so that's all the information that we want to pull from there. I'm gonna go ahead and get out of that, and I'm gonna go over to the 200 SMA, and you can see the same thing. They have for this one, that it's also SG1. So after the ID number, we're gonna put a dot SG1 for the simple moving average. Okay, so now we got enough information to where we can go ahead and start building out our alert. All right, so I'm gonna go back down here to the color-based bar. So what this study does is anytime the alert conditions that we're gonna put right here, anytime those alert conditions are true, it's gonna color the bar pink. Okay, this is the default settings. It's gonna color the bar pink. Also, you have some other things down here that we're not worried about for this simple example. All right, so let's go ahead and start typing out our alert conditions. So I'm going to type it over here just so I have it noted first, and then I'm going to put it, copy and paste it into the actual study. So the language that Sierra Chart uses is very simple. It's a very simple language. It's pretty much close to plain English. You just gotta understand your strategy and know understanding what you're trying to do and know how to articulate that by written word, right? So what we want is we want the Keltner average, or the KA. I'm just going to say KA from now on just to keep it simple. We want KA to be above the 200. That's what we want. All right, that's our alert condition. So in Sierra Chart, the language operates off of and or statements. So what we're going to do is we're going to type and in capital letters, and I'm going to put a parentheses here, ID 11.sg1 is greater than ID 5.sg1 close parentheses. All right, so this is our alert conditions. This is saying when this ID and subgraph is greater than this ID. So this ID and subgraph is the KA, and this ID and subgraph, ID number 5 subgraph 1, is the 200 simple moving average. Okay, so when these conditions are met, then it's going to color the bar pink. All right, so let's go ahead and copy and paste that in there. And I'm going to hit apply. And now if you look at the chart, now you can see every time that the KA is above the 200, the bars are pink. You can see that anytime it's above the 200, it's pink. If we're below the 200, they're not pink, right? They're the normal green and red colors, okay? And we can also do this in reverse. You just do the opposite of what we just now did, right? So there's another way you can also kind of represent this so that it only is colored pink when it crosses. And the way that we would do that is simply we would do cross from below, then parentheses, ID 11.sg1, comma. When you're comparing two things within the study or within an alert, you're using a comma. So ID 5, comma, ID 5.sg1. Okay. Now let's go ahead and copy and paste that in there into the alert condition. Go back to my studies. Go down here, color bar based on alert. And I'm gonna hit paste. And I'm gonna hit apply. So now that you can see, it only does that. This first one is hard to see because it's like a little doji. It only colors the bar pink, or the color that we specify, once the cross actually happens. You see again, the cross actually happened right there. And then it didn't happen again, so over here. So when it crosses from below, or it crosses up, then it'll color the bar pink. So there's a couple different ways we can tell a Sierra Chart what we want it to do based off whatever conditions we're trying to do. Let's go back into the study. Now remember, our goal is not to color the bar pink. Our goal is to have a green arrow that points up. So the first thing that we want to do, or the first thing that I'm going to do in this situation, is I'm going to go back to the original one, the original alert condition, where it's above, because look, we want it above the 200. We're not just looking for the cross. We want the KA to be above the 200. So I'm gonna go put that back in there, and then I'm gonna go to the subgraph, and instead of right here, I'll make sure the color bar is highlighted, okay? But instead of color bar, I'm gonna go down here to draw under draw style, and I'm gonna arrow down, open up the options we have here, and I'm gonna look for arrow up. I'm gonna go ahead and click that. Now I say I want a green arrow, so let me change the color to one of these green colors here. Go ahead and change it to that. All right, and that's good enough. So let's go ahead and hit apply and see what happens. Well, what in the world is that? What in the world just happened? Okay, so there's a couple more options that we have to change, a couple more settings that we have to change. Okay, and I'm gonna try to speed this up a little bit because I don't want this video to be 5 hours long just for the first part of the series. All right, so what we want to do is we want to go to input data, and I'm not going to go over each and every settings in here. I'm just going to go over the things that are important to what we're trying to get accomplished right now. And if you want to know information about all of this stuff, you just go over to Sierra Charts. They have, you go over to their documentation, and there we go. So you go over to that documentation, you can go in here and you can search for what you're looking for. At the very top right of it, you can go to find, and you can search whatever you're looking for, type that in, hit enter, and then it'll take you to the part of their documentation, and they have everything laid out and written in here to help you out. If you want to know more information about it, or if you want to be able to get a little bit more into more detail than what we're covering in this series. Okay, all right, so what we're looking for here to make the screen, or to make the alert do what we wanted to do, is we're going to go to input data, and we're going to go, I'm going to change this to the low. Okay, and then I'm going to go to, I did this in reverse order, output when condition is true. We're going to change this to use input data. Okay, I did that in reverse. So what we changed was the output when condition is true. That means what do we want it to show us when the condition is true, and we're going to use the input data, and then the input data that we're going to base this off of is the low. Okay, and I'm also going to change this draw style offset. I'm going to change this to ticks just because that's just what I want to do, and the draw style percentage ticks offset, I'm going to change that. I'm going to put let's just go ahead and put 15 ticks. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and hit apply, and now you can see we look a little different now. Now I want you to pay attention to this. You see our arrows are there. Matter of fact, let me go in and change the width so we can see the arrows a little bit more clear. I'm gonna make it a 2. I'm gonna make the width a 2. Hit OK. Hit OK. Now we can see our arrows a little bit clearer. But you see the arrows, we want the arrows to actually be below. So green arrow below if I can type. All right, pointing up. Okay, I don't want to run around the room, so I'm not going to put the ing, but we get what we're saying. But anyway, so you can see that it's actually not below. So that's a very simple fix. Is right now it's sitting 15 ticks above the low, but in order to get it below the low, what we're going to do is, instead of having 15, we want to go negative 15. Now that I hit apply, now we're negative 15 ticks below the low of each candlestick. Okay, so that's just a basic simple example of the language that Sierra Chart uses for its alerts. So you can do a lot with that. You can set your alerts up like that if you want to, and then how to manipulate the output so that we can so we can have it so that it's appealing to us the way that we like to see it, right? All right, so the next part of this, we're going to take things a step further. We're going to go over a couple more coding language that we need to be familiar with. All right, so we want to be familiar with the open. Okay, so for the language, it's going to be simply O, right? The close, are the last, which is going to be C. Then we're going to go over the high, which is going to be H, and also the low, which, guess what it's going to be? Just guess. Go ahead. I'm going to give you a chance to guess what it is. Yep, you got it. L. You smart. Okay. All right. So, and there's one last thing that we need to be familiar with, and that is, so all of these will be based on the current situation. So based on the current bar. This is all the wording for the current bar. So you got the open of the bar, the close, or the last price within that bar, or the high of the bar, and the low of the bar. So if we want to reference an historical bar or candlestick, meaning any candlestick that's not the current present candlestick that we're working on, the coding for that, let's go ahead and historical. I like bar. I'm going to use the word bar. Okay. The way that we're going to represent that is with a bracket and a negative number, right? So if I want to go back, say, for example, the previous candle, meaning the last candle before. So you got your active candle. So if I want to see this green candle right here, if I want to reference that candle, you see right now the one that we're currently working on is this red one. If I want to reference this green candle, the way that I'm going to do that is bracket -1 and then close the bracket. Okay. And this is going to make sense in a minute, because what we're going to do is we're going to get rid of some of these arrows, right? So if I want to go back further than that, then I say I want to go 2 candles back, or 3 candles back, or 4 candles back, and so forth. And and you get it. All right, so let's go ahead and then adjust our alert condition so that we can, get something better than what we have right now. It's a little too busy. I'm go ahead and go back in there, and then what I'm going to do, I already have this, kind of ready. So I'm just going to copy and paste the rest of this in here. All right. So you can see for the KA and the 200 cross up, which is what we did right here. Here's the original. Here's the code, right? But we also, what we want to look at is we're going to look at the we're looking for a bearish candle, which is going to be represented by this, which is the open of the previous candle is greater than the close of the previous candle. So basically that just represents a bearish candle, right? That is a bearish candle. And what we're also looking for is we want to take out the price. The current price needs to take out that previous bearish candle. Okay. So of course this is not going to be a perfect system, because this doesn't account for inside candles, or if the previous candle that we're taking out is actually a green candle or a bullish candle, not a bearish candle. Okay. So this is just to illustrate this point. That's all we're doing, just to illustrate what we're doing here. All right. So the way I'm gonna add these codes in here is, and the code for this one here is the previous or the current price is above the high of the previous candle. Okay. So I'm just gonna add to what I already have here in the parentheses, and I'm gonna go comma, and then I'm gonna put the bear candle code, and then I'm gonna do another comma, which I don't know why I put it down there, but I'm gonna do another comma, and then I'm gonna add what also we can use is, if this is a trading system, this code right here could be our trigger. Okay. Go ahead and hit apply on that. Now, if you have any questions about anything that I do, go ahead and leave that in the comment section below. And we'll see what we can do for you. But all right. So what this is saying is when the KA is above the red, and then you have a red candle where the next candle is taking out the close or the current price, or the next candle takes out the high of, or the price takes out the high of that candle on the next candle. Okay. So we can see this alert condition was met here. We have our KA above. I'm going to close this out. And it actually makes more sense over here. But we have our KA that's above the 200, right? And then we have our bearish candle here. And then we have where the current price when this was formed, or the close, is actually above the high of that red candle. Okay, so you can see as you can see, we can use that as a trigger. So when that condition becomes true, we can actually take that trade long, and this can be like a bullish trade for us. Okay, so that was just an illustration of everything that we need to know in order to start working on our spreadsheet. All right, so for me personally, it helps to know the actual language of Sierra chart when we're working with the spreadsheet, and the different things that we can use to achieve the result that we're trying to achieve, right? All right, so now let's go ahead and get into the fun part. Let's get to why we came here. We're gonna go ahead and jump right on over into the spreadsheet. All right, so the way that we're gonna do this is we're gonna open up a study. I'm gonna go back to my studies, and we're gonna keep it simple, and we're gonna go down all the way to the S's. So what we're looking for is I'm sorry about that. We're looking for spreadsheet system alert. Okay. Now, if we're gonna build a trading system, we could use the spreadsheet system for trading. For right now, we're just gonna use the spreadsheet system alert since we're working with an alert, and I want to put that at the bottom of my studies to graph list. All right. Now, one thing before I get into there, we want to make sure that all of our, the information that we need makes its way into the spreadsheet. And the way that you can simply do that is you just click on whatever study you want to be in a spreadsheet and go to your settings and inputs tab. And then down here on the left side of the screen, you want to make sure right here where it says include in spreadsheet, you want to make sure that box is checked. Okay, so that way if it's not checked, then it's not going to be populated. The information is not going to be populated into the spreadsheet. All right, so you want it to be in the spreadsheet, you want to make sure that box is checked. Okay, for the 14,000th time. All right, so now let's go into our study, our spreadsheet system alert study. So this is just a study. We haven't attached a spreadsheet to it. Now, let's say if I hit OK here, and if I hit OK, now it's going to create a spreadsheet, and it's going to put the default. You can look down here. This is the default spreadsheet, but I don't want to use the default spreadsheet. I want to use a spreadsheet just for this, right? So I'm going to go ahead and close. I'm going to minimize this first, and then I'm going to go back to that study. Let me open this up. All right, so let me go back into my studies, and you can see. So right here, it automatically put the spreadsheet down here, but we want to use a different one. Now, we were creating one for the first time. I think I clicked something. I clicked too many buttons right there. So if we're creating this for the first time, we can actually just name, the study right here, and let's say spreadsheet. Come on now, buddy. Spreadsheet example, right? And then once I click OK, or if I click apply, then I'm gonna go ahead. I don't want to save that. It's gonna close the one that we already using, but it's gonna create a new spreadsheet, right? But I don't want this one. I don't want that one. Do you want to remove? Yep, I definitely want to remove it, and I don't want to save it. I was just illustrating, and let me give it time. Let it think about what it wants to do. All right, so let's go back into that study. And it just completely removed it, which is fine. Put the spreadsheet system study back, into my list here. Go back into it. So this time I have one that's already kind of prepared, and I'm gonna go to select, and we're gonna use this ME3 Classroom YouTube spreadsheet, and then go ahead and apply. And now our spreadsheet, you can see our spreadsheet come up in the background. Now, for this video, for this portion of it, we're not going to make any changes here. Well, we still want our arrow up, so we got to make sure that's in there. So for our buy entry, that's the one that we're going to use. So it's you can see the draw style is already arrow up, with the width of 2. So all of that already looks good. We're not worried about alerts for this one because we're going to use the spreadsheet, and we're just going to keep everything else at the default setting. Okay, hit OK. Go ahead and hit OK, and let's open up the spreadsheet. So let's go ahead and go through a quick little walkthrough of what we have in our spreadsheet. All right, so over here in the top left hand corner for cell number 1, column A, it shows us what contract or what instrument that we're trading, which is the NQZ 20 contract month, and we're looking at a 5-minute chart for this on chart number 2. So we got the chart information right there in the top left hand corner. Now below that we got the date and time, and then we have our open. You can see the open also has an ID and an SG number, and the high, the low, the last, or the current price, or the close, the volume, and the number of trades. And then in this I column, you have some information that's only read only, that we're not going to we don't need to necessarily be, concerned with this information. So just understand that that's what that is. It's only read only, as you can see in parentheses. All right, and as we start scrolling right, we see we got this in cell number 2 or row 2, starting with column K, we have our buy entry, buy exit, sell entry, and the sell exit. Now this is where we're going to start putting our formulas right in here. We're going to put our formulas right there to be able to do what we're trying to do, right? And if you keep scrolling to the right, once you get into the double letters, now we're getting into the studies that we have on the chart. So you see we got the K8 or Keltner band, or the K band, or Keltner channel, whatever you want to call it. All right, you see I got a KA right here with the ID and the SG number, as well as the top and the bottom. Just going over, we see we got the 200 SMA, and we also see our time range there. So everything that we have on the chart is also here in the spreadsheet. Now remember before when I mentioned, we were looking at the tool values and I was pointing out the 1 and the 0. So since right now it is currently 2 p.m. Eastern time, we are within that time range that I have set for the open market trading time. And you see it's a 1 all the way down. It's a 1. I have another time range that's the first hour, pretty much the first hour of the future session, which is 18 to 1900. That's, since we're not currently within that time range, you see that's a 0 because that condition is false. All right, and then you got some more stuff over here that also uses the 1 and 0, and we don't have to get to. We even got our alert here, so we can actually use this right here within the spreadsheet as to build within our formula, right? All right, so really it's really that simple, and you can see this is very similar, exactly the same really, to a Microsoft Excel spreadsheet. You don't have as much functionality as in an Excel spreadsheet, but you can still use your formulas and everything just like an Excel spreadsheet, right? So now with all of that being said, let's say I'm gonna close this down. I'm gonna minimize this for a minute to illustrate this point. All right, so let me go back into the studies, and I'm gonna go to this one. Now I don't want this, we're not gonna use this color bar based on the alert condition study anymore, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and hide that, hit apply, and I'm gonna use the spreadsheet. I'm only gonna use the spreadsheet, okay? So I'm going to make things simple and easy so I don't have to type everything out. I'm gonna go ahead and grab this, go ahead and copy that, paste it on over here. Okay, just for a quick reference, and we can go ahead and close that. Oh wait, where did our spreadsheet go? Well, if you lose your spreadsheet, it's always down here in the bottom portion of the chart book. So we can go ahead and click on it, and sometimes it'll come up like that, or sometimes it'll be, let's see if I can recreate this. All right, so sometimes it'll just pop up, minimized right here in the lower left hand corner. You just find it and then you expand it, whether you want full screen or just not full screen, whatever. I don't know what you would call that. It's not, whatever. Okay, all right, so we now open that back up full screen, and since we want to give us an up arrow in this situation, we're going to use the buy entry column right here to create this alert. So what you're going to do is you can either double click in it, which is going to bring up this window right here where you can put your formula in, or you can right click it and go to edit formula or press F2, right? Now there's some other settings in here to where you can, make your spreadsheet all nice and pretty, and we're not going to get into all that right now. We're just, going over pretty much the coding and how to actually use the spreadsheet in order to, create this alert, and which we'll later on use it to create a trading system. All right, so we can go to edit formula, and I'm just going to paste that code right up in there and hit OK. Alright, so you can see that it auto-populates it the rest of the way down. And some things that we also have to be aware about, to make sure this works correctly, is we want to go up here to trade, and we want to make sure that auto trading global is enabled. Auto trading enabled is enabled globally, right? Also auto trade on the chart, but it's all grayed out, which is kind of weird. So let me go ahead and alright, so actually since we got it in here, it should work, right? Alright, we shouldn't have to do anything else. Let's see if it works. But it's not there. You can see it didn't do anything. Let me see. Alright, so let me go back to the study. Maybe I did something wrong. Go back into the study. And let me look at the study real quick. Alright. Okay, everything looks good. Everything, because we use the right coding. Use price graph. Okay, nope, that's not it. Okay, nope. Actually, we don't need to change any of that. So all of that looks good. All right, so I'm just playing around. Actually, I know exactly why it's not working. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna go back into the spreadsheet. Right here, we want to use a formula like we would use in an Excel spreadsheet, right? So instead of doing it like this, I'm just gonna go ahead and clear all of that out, because that ain't what we want to do. That ain't what we need to do. Okay, now it'll auto-populate. If I put anything in this first, it'll go ahead and auto-populate in the cells below it. But I'm gonna go back to edit formula, and so for a formula within Excel, you want to make sure that you have the equal sign there. All right, and you go ahead, I'm gonna paste that back in there, and now let's see if it works. All right, and see, now we got a syntax error. Well, the reason that is because Spreadsheet doesn't use the same language as the normal coding language, or the normal language that we would use in an alert condition when we're typing it out. What Spreadsheet uses it uses these rows and the columns, right? So now we need to get that column information for each of our studies that we're looking for. All right, so for KA, what we're going to look at is we need column AA and row. We want this row right here, so that is row 3. All right, because that's the current information. We want to see the current information for our strategy, what we're doing right now. All right, same thing for the 200. It's right here. It's AE number 3. Also, since we got some more stuff down here, we want to look at the open. Go ahead and grab this information. Technically, you're still supposed to be able to use open, but let's just keep everything, as a military term, dress right, dress. Let's keep everything, the same and even across the board. So we're going to keep with our column and row number. Okay. So for the open, we have B number 3. For the close or the last, we have actually E number 3. Okay, and for the high, we have C number 3. Oops. And for the low, we have D or delta number 3. Okay, now so for our previous, instead of the brackets and the numbers, all that stuff, all we're going to do is we're going to use these other. So the last closed candle would be number 4. Or let's say we want the high of the previous candle. So it'll be C and the number 4, right? we want 2 candles back, and it'll be C number 5, and so forth and so on, right? So it'll be C and then the row in which we want to reference. Okay, so now let's go ahead and recreate this right here with the spreadsheet. Spreadsheet syntax. Okay, so we're still going to do that. We're still going to use the and or statements for this one. Now, according to their documentation, there's you can also use other things. You don't have to use the and or, but and or works here, so we're just going to go ahead and use it. So the KA ID 11 SG1, instead of that, we're going to do AA3 is greater than the 200, which is AE3. Also, you got the open, which is B3, or no, B4, because we're referencing for this part right here. We're referencing the previous candle, and we're looking for a bearish candle. So the open is greater than the close, which is what is it? E3. Because I want to say C because it's closed, but it's not. But it's E3 for the spreadsheet. And what else we got? And then once the current price or the close takes out the high of the previous price, we're going to use E3. Hold on. This one's E4. Okay. So the bearish candle, the previous. Okay. So the previous bar, which we're looking for a bearish candle, is going to be B4 is greater than E4. And now the close or the current price we need that to be greater than the previous high. So the high is where we at? C4. Okay, and we're gonna close that parentheses. All right, so now that looks good. Let me go ahead and paste that into our thing right here. Oops. Yep, gotta double tap it or right click and edit so we can edit it. Make sure our equal sign it remains there. Now we got equals and then our syntax. Let's hit OK. All right, so now you can see here we got zeros in there, and then we got a 1 right there. So the same thing as before that I was talking about with the time range. When that condition and when that alert is met, then we'll get a 1. If that condition is not true, then we'll have a 0. So when the condition is true, it's a 1. When the condition is not true, it's a 0. All right, so let's go ahead and look at our chart and make sure everything went over there. All right, and then you can see it. So all right, so that worked, and that is good enough. All right, so now we can see exactly how everything works. We can see how the the syntax and the coding or the language that we're supposed that we can use within Sierra chart to create a little bit of automation, or where we can create our own studies or create our own alerts, or create an actual trading system. All right, so that's going to conclude it for this first video within the Sierra chart spreadsheet series. That's just the basic overview of everything. I hope it was helpful. Like I always say, if you have any questions, go ahead and leave that in the comment section below. And like, subscribe if you haven't already done so, and all that, so you can get alerted when I make the next video, or the next video within the series, or any more videos like this. All right, so go ahead, and that's gonna do it. Now stay tuned for the next one. Trade it easy.